The wind screamed across the frozen wasteland, sharp as broken glass. Shadows stretched long under the pale blue sun, and the ice cracked in slow groans. Somewhere in this endless white, half buried in snow, a small alien girl lay still. Her skin was pale blue, almost blending with the frost. Her hair tangled and frozen to the ground, her breaths came slow, so faint that the wind almost carried them away. If not for the tiny movement of her fingers, one would think she was already gone. For days she had been there, waiting for the cold to claim her. She could not move, her body locked in ice, her thoughts fading like weak candlelight. All she had left was the strange crystal shard clutched in her hands, its faint glow the only warmth against her skin. Somewhere deep inside, she knew this shard was important, but her mind was too tired to remember why. Far away, in a hidden station orbiting the moon, 2 ISI agents stood in a dark briefing room. Agent Rahman, tall and broad-shouldered, scanned the holographic image on the table. It showed a blurry photo, a girl half covered in snow, her eyes barely open. "This came from an encrypted signal," said the commander, his voice tight. "No coordinates, just this image and a short audio file, static, mixed with what sounds like breathing." Agent Zoya, younger but sharp-eyed, leaned closer. "Could be a trap," she said. Rahman nodded. "Or someone's last chance." The ISI Interstellar Security Intelligence had dealt with strange rescues before, but something about this image made the room colder. The commander looked between them. "We don't know who she is or what species, but the terrain matches the northern ice fields of Kargath Moon." Rahman raised an eyebrow. "That's smuggler territory." Zoya checked her wrist pad. "Temperature is -78 Celsius there. Anyone unprotected would be dead in minutes." The commander's voice dropped lower. "Unless they want her to suffer longer." Minutes later, Rahman and Zoya were in a small black shuttle, engines warming. The hangar doors opened to the endless black of space. They knew the risks. Smugglers on Kargath Moon were ruthless, and anyone found snooping in their area usually vanished. But as the shuttle slipped into the atmosphere, they focused on the mission through the cockpit glass. They saw the white surface stretch forever, with ridges of ice like the spines of frozen beasts. They landed near the coordinates guessed from the photo, the landing gears sinking slightly into soft powder. The moment the ramp opened, the cold slammed into them like a wall. Their thermal suits hissed softly, releasing heat around their bodies. But the cold still bit at their faces. Snow whipped across their visors, making it hard to see. They moved slowly, scanning the area with thermal sensors. At first, there was nothing but the deep chill of empty ice. Then Zoya's device beeped. Faintly, a small patch of warmth ahead. Almost hidden, her voice came through the comm. "Got something? Low reading. But it's there." They trudged forward, the wind howling louder. And then they saw her. The girl lay curled, her face half covered in frost, her lips pale. Rahman knelt beside her, brushing snow from her cheek. Her eyelids trembled at his touch, but she did not speak. Zoya quickly checked her vitals. Pulse is weak, body temp critical. She began to wrap the girl in a heated rescue blanket. Rahman glanced around, uneasy. Why would they leave her here, alive? He muttered before Zoya could answer. A sharp, cracking sound cut through the wind. The snow near Rahman's boot exploded into ice shards. A sniper shot, they dove for cover behind a ridge. Shielding the girl, Rahman's visor flashed with warning signs. Projectile detected, direction northeast. He peeked out and saw a faint flash on a distant cliff. "Someone's watching us," he said, his voice steady but low. Another shot rang out, this one grazing Zoya's shoulder plate. She gritted her teeth, tightening her hold on the girl. Through the swirling snow, Rahman switched to thermal vision. There are multiple heat signatures moving in fast. "They're coming," he said. Loading his weapon, Zoya's eyes met his. Then we don't have long. The wind screamed louder, as if the moon itself was warning them. The girl stirred weakly in Zoya's arms, her lips moving. Zoya leaned closer and heard faint words in a language she didn't know, but the fear in the girl's eyes was clear. Whoever was coming, she did not want them to find her. Rahman tightened his grip on his rifle. Stay close. We get to the shuttle. Or we die out here. Snow swirled around them, hiding both friend and foe. Somewhere beyond the storm, figures moved like ghosts, and the frozen wasteland waited to see who would survive the next few minutes. Snow whipped across the frozen ground as Rahman pressed his back against the ice ridge. The sniper fire had stopped for the moment. But the silence felt worse. Somewhere out there, hidden by the blizzard, enemies were closing in. Zoya knelt beside the alien girl, adjusting the heated rescue blanket so the warmth covered her small body completely. Her breathing was still shallow, her skin icy cold, but there was a faint hint of color returning to her cheeks. "She's alive," Zoya said over the comm, her voice tense but relieved. Rahman gave a quick nod. Eyes scanning the white horizon. "We can't stay here," he replied. "If they circle around, we'll be trapped." He leaned closer to the girl, speaking slowly. "Can you hear me? We're here to help." Her eyelids fluttered, and for a moment, Rahman thought she might answer. Instead, she coughed weakly, her frozen fingers gripping the glowing crystal shard tighter. That shard caught Rahman's attention, even through the frost. It pulsed with a faint blue light. Not just a random rock, it looked like a data crystal. Maybe containing vital information. He decided not to touch it yet. Knowing it could be important to her, a sudden crunch in the snow made Rahman whip his rifle toward the sound. A dark shape moved quickly between ice boulders. Then another and another through his thermal scope. He counted 5 heat signatures, all moving in a spread pattern. "They're flanking us," Rahman said sharply. Zoya's jaw tightened. "Then we move now." Rahman took point, leading them toward a nearby ridge that offered some cover from sniper fire. The blizzard was thick, wind tearing at their suits. Snow stung their faces like tiny shards of glass. Zoya carried the girl close to her chest, every step careful so she wouldn't fall. The girl's head rested against Zoya's shoulder, eyes half open, lips trembling. She whispered something again, but the words were drowned out by the storm. A sharp plasma bolt exploded near their path, melting snow into steaming slush. Rahman dropped to one knee and returned fire toward the muzzle flash he spotted. The attackers were alien mercenaries dressed in white camo armor, almost invisible against the ice. Their weapons glowed faintly, the kind used for high-energy, short-range combat. One of them shouted in a guttural alien tongue. Rahman didn't need translation to know it meant, "Don't let them escape." The agents moved fast, weaving between ice formations. Rahman fired short bursts to keep the mercenaries pinned. Down Zoya kept her body angled to shield the girl from stray shots. They reached the base of the ridge, but climbing it with the girl would be slow. Rahman scanned for another route and saw a narrow ice crevice that could lead into the cliffs. "This way," he shouted, waving Zoya forward, inside the crevice. The wind was blocked, but the echo of footsteps behind them was unmistakable. The mercenaries were following. Rahman moved backward while firing. Forcing the enemy to slow down, Zoya kept moving. Her boots crunching over frozen ground, the girl in her arms stirred again, this time lifting one hand weakly to point further ahead. Zoya glanced in that direction. A faint blue glow pulsed at the far end of the crevice. It looked unnatural, like it came from something alive. They pushed toward it. The passage opened into a small hollow where ice walls glowed faintly with bioluminescent streaks. It was strangely beautiful, casting blue light over the three of them for a moment. Rahman felt the strange stillness of the place. The girls' breathing eased slightly in the warmer air trapped here. But their brief moment of calm ended when the sound of boots on ice grew louder. The mercenaries had entered the hollow. There, silhouettes visible against the glowing walls. Ramon ducked behind a column of ice and signaled Zoya to take cover. The first mercenary stepped forward cautiously, weapon raised. Ramon didn't give him the chance to aim. A single shot dropped him instantly, but the others scattered for cover, returning fire. The air filled with the hiss of plasma bolts and the sharp crack of bullets against ice. Chunks of glowing ice rained down as the firefight echoed in the hollow. Zoya kept the girl low behind a thick wall of frozen rock. The alien child's eyes followed every movement, fear plain on her face. Ramon shouted over the comm, "We can't stay here. They'll corner us." Zoya glanced at the glow deeper in the cave. "Then we go further in." Ramon hesitated only a second before nodding. Covering fire blazed from his rifle as Zoya carried the girl toward the far exit. The mercenaries tried to push forward, but Ramon's precise shots kept them pinned. Finally, Ramon dove into the narrow tunnel after them. The mercenaries' shouts grew distant as the winding path carried them deeper. The glow grew stronger, bathing the walls in a shifting blue light. The air was slightly warmer here. Enough. That frost began melting from the girl's hair. She opened her eyes wider now, staring ahead as if she recognized the place. Her lips moved again, forming a single word, but it was not in any language the agents knew. Whatever she said, Ramon felt a chill run through him. It wasn't fear in her voice this time. It was warning, if you'd like. I can now continue with Part 3, The Ambush in the same suspenseful style. The narrow tunnel twisted sharply before opening into a vast ice cavern. Its walls shimmered with blue and silver, and icicles hung like spears from the ceiling. Every sound echoed the crunch of boots, the drip of melting ice, the faint rasp of the alien girl's breathing. Ramon moved first, rifle sweeping the area. Zoya followed close behind. The girl still held tight against her chest. The air felt heavier here, and the glow from the ice seemed almost alive. They crossed the cavern slowly, their eyes scanning the shadows. Ramon's instincts screamed that something wasn't right. Zoya felt it too. Her grip on her sidearm tightened. The girl stirred slightly, her head lifting as if she sensed danger before they did. Her eyes, still weak, but clearer now, darted toward the far corner of the cavern. Zoya followed her gaze, just in time to see movement. From the shadows stepped figures dressed in the same white camo armor they had seen earlier. But this time, there were more. At least 8. Spreading out in a wide arc, they held sleek plasma rifles, the kind used for fast, close-range attacks. One of them raised his hand, signaling the others to stop. The leader's helmet had a red stripe down the middle, a mark of rank. His voice echoed through the cavern, rough and cold. Hand over the girl. Ramon stepped forward. Weapon. Aim, not happening. The leader's helmet tilted slightly. You don't understand what she is. Zoya kept her eyes on him. We understand enough. You want her dead? The leader didn't deny it. Alive. She's a threat to every system in this sector. Ramon's jaw tightened. Then? I guess she's our threat now. The leader's hand dropped, and instantly the cavern erupted in gunfire. Bolts of plasma lit the ice walls in bright flashes. Ramon dove behind a boulder, returning fire with sharp precision. Zoya rolled behind an ice pillar, keeping the girl low to the ground. Chunks of ice shattered and fell as the firefight roared. Every blast echoed like thunder, making it hard to tell where shots were coming from. 2 mercenaries tried to flank Ramon from the left. He spun and dropped them with 3 quick shots. Zoya fired at another who got too close, her blast sending him sliding across the ice, but more were coming, and their aim was improving. The girl cried out softly, clutching her crystal shard tighter. The light from it suddenly grew brighter, casting strange patterns on the walls. Ramon noticed the enemy slowing for a split second. Distracted by the glow, Zoya moved toward the exit. Now! He shouted. Zoya didn't hesitate. Using the moment to dash toward a tunnel at the other end of the cavern, Ramon covered her, firing in short bursts to keep the mercenaries from advancing. The leader barked orders in his alien tongue, and his troops surged forward again. One managed to grab Zoya's arm, but she twisted, slammed her elbow into his helmet, and broke free. Ramon backed toward the tunnel, his rifle smoking from the heat. The mercenaries pressed hard, firing wildly now. Suddenly, an explosion shook the cavern, sending shards of ice raining from the ceiling. The blast came from the side. Someone had triggered an avalanche inside the cave. The mercenaries froze, realizing the roof above them was starting to give way. "Run!" Ramon shouted. Zoya sprinted through the tunnel, the girl in her arms and the crystal still glowing. Ramon fired a few more shots to keep the enemy pinned before diving in after them. Behind them, the sound of collapsing ice grew louder and louder. The tunnel shook, bits of frozen rock falling around them. Ramon didn't dare look back. He could feel the rush of cold air chasing them like a living thing. They burst out into a narrow passage. Gasping for breath, the noise of the collapse faded behind them, replaced once again by the howl of the wind outside. Snow swirled at the mouth of the passage, making it impossible to see far. Ramon scanned the area quickly. "We need to keep moving. They'll dig themselves out." Zoya nodded, adjusting the blanket around the girl. The child's breathing was steadier now, but her eyes still carried that same silent warning. Ramon checked his wristpad. Their shuttle was 2 kilometers to the west. In this storm, it might as well have been 20. "Stay close," he told Zoya, "and if you see movement, shout." They stepped out into the blizzard, the snow already covering their tracks within seconds. The ice crunched underfoot, each step feeling heavier than the last. The girl's crystal glowed faintly through the blanket, the only light in the storm, as they pushed forward. Ramon thought about the leader's words. "You don't understand what she is." He glanced at the girl, wondering who she really was, but answers would have to wait, because the wind carried a sound that made his stomach sink. Voices muffled by the storm, but getting closer. The mercenaries weren't buried after all. They were hunting again, and this time there would be no safe cavern to hide in. The storm roared like a living beast. Snow stung their faces, and the wind tried to push them back. Ramon moved ahead, his rifle ready. Scanning through the white haze for any movement, Zoya followed close. The alien girl wrapped tightly in the heated blanket. The glow from her crystal was the only steady light. A small blue flame in a world of white. The sound of voices behind them was faint at first, but Ramon knew they were getting closer. The mercenaries were trained trackers, and the storm would not slow them for long. "We need cover," he called over the comm, his voice sharp. Zoya pointed to the left, a jagged opening in the ice wall, half hidden by snowdrifts. Ramon didn't hesitate, leading the way. The opening led into a tunnel, narrow and twisting. Inside, the wind died down, replaced by the drip of melting water. The walls shimmered with faint blue veins of frozen minerals. It felt warmer here, but Ramon knew it was only an illusion. Zoya kept her pace steady, her boots crunching over the frost. The girl in her arms opened her eyes and whispered something again in her strange language. Ramon glanced back. "What's she saying?" Zoya shook her head. "I don't know, but she keeps pointing forward." The tunnel widened into a strange chamber lit by glowing ice. Pillars rose from floor to ceiling like frozen trees. In the center, a narrow bridge of ice stretched across. A deep black chasm. The bottom was invisible, just endless darkness. Ramon's gut tightened. "We cross, but fast." Zoya stepped onto the bridge carefully. the ice creaking under her weight. Rahman followed, eyes scanning the shadows halfway across. The sound of boots echoed from the tunnel behind them. Shouts in the alien mercenary language rang out. Rahman spun, firing a burst into the tunnel mouth, forcing them to take cover. Plasma bolts shot back, sizzling through the air. One hit the bridge near Rahman's feet, sending cracks spidering across the ice. "Go!" he shouted, his voice echoing. Zoya hurried across, clutching the girl tightly. Rahman followed. His boots slipping on the slick surface, the bridge groaned under the strain. They reached the far side, just as a mercenary tried to rush them. Rahman fired a single shot, and the man slipped. Crashing through the thin ice and vanishing into the darkness below, the bridge shook violently. And Rahman knew it wouldn't hold for long without a word. He aimed at the support near the far end and blasted it. The ice cracked, split, and the bridge collapsed, taking several mercenaries with it. The rest shouted in frustration from the other side. Unable to follow, they didn't stop to celebrate. Rahman led them into another tunnel, this one sloping downward. The deeper they went, the warmer the air felt. Steam curled from cracks in the ice, and the walls glowed with strange bioluminescent streaks. It was beautiful in a haunting way. But Rahman knew beauty could be deadly here. Zoya slowed, looking around. These caves. "They're not natural," Rahman frowned. "You think they're built?" Before she could answer, the ground trembled. From the shadows ahead, a low rumble echoed. Two glowing yellow eyes appeared, high off the ground. Then a massive shape stepped into the light, its body covered in thick white fur. Claws glinting like ice daggers. The creature was easily 3 times Rahman's height. The alien girl gasped, clutching the blanket tighter. Rahman raised his rifle slowly. Big friend or big problem. The beast lowered its head and let out a roar that shook the cave walls. "Big problem," Zoya said flatly. The creature charged, its steps pounding like thunder. Rahman fired a burst, but the shots barely slowed it. Zoya ducked to the side, pressing herself and the girl against the wall. The beast's massive paw swiped where they had been a second before. Smashing ice into shards, Rahman dove aside. Rolling across the floor, the girl suddenly cried out in her language, her voice loud and urgent. The beast froze mid-step, its glowing eyes fixed on her. It tilted its head, almost curious. Then, without warning, it turned and stomped deeper into the tunnels, disappearing into the glow. Rahman lowered his weapon slowly. What just happened? Zoya looked at the girl. I think she told it to leave us alone. Rahman gave her a look. And you're only telling me now that she can talk to giant monsters? Zoya shook her head. I didn't know. The girl's eyes met Rahman's, and for the first time, he saw a spark of something. Not fear, but purpose. They continued deeper into the cave, behind them. The voices of the mercenaries were faint, but still present. Rahman knew it was only a matter of time before they found another way around. But for now, they had a lead. The girl seemed to know where she was going, guiding them through the maze of tunnels. Every step took them further from the storm and closer to whatever truth she carried. Somewhere ahead, the faint hum of machinery began to mix with the natural sounds of the cave. Zoya and Rahman exchanged a look. This wasn't just an ice cave anymore. It was hiding something. The hum of machinery grew louder with every step. It was faint at first, blending with the natural sounds of dripping water and shifting ice. But now, the vibration could be felt through the ground. Rahman slowed his pace, raising a hand for Zoya to stop. The alien girl looked at them, then toward the source of the sound. Her eyes held an urgency that made Rahman's pulse quicken. They reached a sharp bend in the tunnel. Light spilled from around the corner. Not the soft glow of bioluminescent ice, but the cold white glare of artificial lamps. Rahman crouched low, motioning for Zoya to do the same. They peeked around the edge and froze. Before them stretched a massive underground chamber carved into the ice. Metal scaffolding clung to the walls, and strange machines hummed and clicked. In the center, a tall cylindrical structure pulsed with blue light. Around it, alien mercenaries moved in a strict pattern, carrying crates and adjusting controls. This was no smuggler hideout. It was a hidden facility, Zoya whispered. What is this place? Raman's eyes swept over the equipment. Power core. Gamma rays. Looks like they're transmitting something. The girl stirred in Zoya's arms. Pointing at the central structure, her small voice broke the silence, speaking a word in her language. Zoya frowned. She keeps saying that word. Illyra Raman glanced at her. Could be a name. The girl reached for the crystal she had been holding. Its glow intensified as if reacting to the chamber below. A faint projection flickered from it. A hologram of an alien woman, regal and calm. The image was damaged, static, breaking her words. But a few phrases came through in a melodic language. Zoya shook her head. I don't understand. Raman's eyes narrowed. I think I do. She's giving a warning. The woman's voice cracked with interference. But the key parts were clear. The girl was Princess Illyra, heir to a royal family from a system far beyond human borders. Her people had been overthrown by a rival faction, and she had been smuggled away in secret, but her enemies found her and left her to die here, buried in ice. The crystal held the last message from her mother, a call for help to anyone who found her. Raman's grip tightened on his rifle. So that's why they want her dead. Before they could speak further, a sharp alarm rang through the chamber. Below, one of the mercenaries shouted, pointing toward the upper walkway. Raman ducked back instantly. They've got motion sensors. We can't stay here. Zoya looked down at the girl. She's a royal heir, Raman. If they take her back, they won't, he cut in. We're getting her out. The mercenaries began to move up the scaffolding, searching for intruders. Raman led them down a side tunnel. Moving quickly but silently, the girl clung to Zoya, her eyes darting back toward the light. It was as if leaving the chamber pained her, but she didn't resist. The tunnel ahead forked in two. Raman chose the left path, hoping it would curve back toward the surface. But after 50 meters, the ground opened into another chamber, smaller, but filled with crates bearing the same royal crest they had seen on Illyra's arm. Zoya stepped closer, brushing ice from one of the symbols. These are from her world. Raman pried one open. Inside were data chips, ceremonial fabrics, and strange metallic rods that glowed faintly. This isn't just a hideout, Raman said, his voice low. It's a storage depot for everything they've taken from her people. Suddenly, the sound of boots echoed. From behind, the mercenaries had split up, and a squad was heading straight for them. Raman shut the crate and moved to cover. Zoya, get her behind those barrels now. Zoya obeyed, crouching with the girl while Raman set up his rifle. The first mercenary stepped into view, and Raman dropped him with a clean shot. But the others fired back immediately, plasma bolts sizzling through the cold air. The firefight was brutal in the tight space. Raman's rounds shattered a control console, spraying sparks. One mercenary tried to flank from the right, but Zoya fired a precise shot that sent him crashing into a crate. The girl huddled low, her hands gripping the crystal like a lifeline. Its glow grew brighter again, almost blinding. Then, without warning, a wave of energy pulsed out from it. The mercenaries staggered, clutching their helmets as their combs filled with static. Raman didn't waste the opening. Move. He shouted, pulling Zoya and the girl toward another tunnel. They sprinted away, their footsteps echoing off the ice. Behind them, the mercenaries' shouts were muffled, their pursuit delayed. But Raman knew it wouldn't last. The tunnel sloped upward now. Fresh air began to seep in, and the faint howl of the surface storm grew louder. They were getting closer to open ground, and hopefully their shuttle. But Rahman also knew that with what they had just learned, the mission had changed completely. This wasn't just about saving a stranded child anymore. They were carrying the last living heir of a fallen kingdom. And that meant the entire galaxy might soon be watching. The storm's howl grew louder as they climbed. Cold air whipped into the tunnel, carrying flakes of snow that stung their faces. Rahman's boots crunched against the frost, each step heavy with urgency. Zoya kept Princess Illyra close, her arms wrapped tightly around the small girl. The crystal in Illyra's hands still glowed, its light dancing across the icy walls. Rahman checked his wristpad. The shuttle was less than 1 kilometer away. In good weather, they could reach it in minutes. But this was no good weather, and worse, the faint sound of boots was growing behind them. "They're close," Rahman said over the comm, his voice sharp. Zoya didn't look back. "We can make it if we keep moving." They emerged from the tunnel into an open stretch of the ice fields. The storm tore at them instantly, the wind roaring like a giant's breath. Visibility was poor, just swirling white and the vague shapes of jagged ice. Rahman led them toward the shuttle's beacon, its faint signal pulsing on his display. But movement in the storm caught his eye. Shadows, several of them, spreading out in a wide circle. "They've cut us off," Rahman muttered. Zoya spotted them too, her grip on her sidearm tightening. The mercenaries appeared from the haze, their white camo blending with the snow until the last second. The leader with the red-striped helmet stepped forward, his rifle pointed at Rahman. "You can't win," he called, his voice carrying in the wind. Rahman's answer was simple. He raised his weapon and fired. The battle erupted instantly. Plasma bolts and gunfire flashed through the storm, lighting up the whiteout in bursts of orange and blue. Rahman moved fast, firing short bursts and ducking behind an ice ridge. Zoya kept low, using the ridge for cover while shielding Illyra. The girl pressed herself against Zoya, her wide eyes locked on the fight. A mercenary tried to rush their flank, but Rahman dropped him with 2 quick shots. Another came from the opposite side, forcing Zoya to fire while still holding Illyra. Her shot hit true, and the attacker fell into the snow. But for every one they dropped, more appeared through the storm. The leader advanced slowly. Confident in their numbers, Rahman's rifle clicked. Empty, he slammed in a fresh magazine, his breath forming clouds inside his helmet. The mercenaries tightened their circle, pushing the agents toward the ridge's center. Zoya glanced at Rahman. "We can't stay here. They'll box us in." Rahman scanned the area quickly. Beyond the ridge was a slope leading straight toward the shuttle. It was a risky run, fully exposed, but it was their only chance. "On my signal," Rahman said. He tossed a smoke grenade into the snow, the wind spreading the cloud quickly. The white haze thickened, mixing with the storm until sight was nearly impossible. "Go!" Rahman shouted. Zoya sprinted down the slope. Illyra held tight against her. Rahman followed, firing blind into the smoke to keep the mercenaries' heads down. The slope was slick, and Zoya nearly slipped twice. Rahman slid the last few meters, his boots kicking up snow through the storm. The dark outline of the shuttle finally appeared. Its engines were warming, the soft hum like a promise of survival. But the mercenaries weren't giving up. Shouts and gunfire followed them down the slope. One plasma bolt hit Rahman's shoulder plate, spinning him to the side. He gritted his teeth, forcing himself up. "Keep moving." Zoya reached the shuttle's ramp and turned, firing at the shapes in the storm. Rahman staggered up behind her, his rifle spitting fire until the last round was gone. The leader's voice roared through the blizzard. "She will not leave this moon alive." Rahman grabbed a thermal charge from his belt and hurled it toward the ridge. It detonated in a bright flash, the shockwave knocking several mercenaries off their feet. Zoya pulled him into the shuttle, the ramp rising behind them. Illyra sat on one of the seats, clutching her crystal. The glow steady and strong. The shuttle's engines roared, lifting them off the ice through the small viewport. Rahman saw the mercenaries shrinking into the white storm. But the leader stood unmoving, his red-striped helmet turned toward the rising craft. Even through the snow, Rahman felt the weight of that stare. This wasn't over, not by a long shot. Inside the shuttle, Zoya knelt by Illyra, brushing frost from her hair. "You're safe now," she said gently. Illyra looked up at her, then at Rahman. In her language, she spoke a few quiet words. Zoya glanced at Rahman. "I think she's thanking us." Rahman nodded slowly. "We'll get her home." But deep inside, he knew this rescue had started something much bigger. Somewhere out there, powerful enemies had just lost their prize, and they would do anything to get it back. The shuttle cut through the storm, climbing higher and higher until the swirling white below became a distant blur. Inside, the air was warmer. The hum of the engine steady. For the first time since landing on the frozen moon, Rahman allowed himself to breathe without feeling like the next second might be his last. Zoya sat across from him, holding Princess Illyra in her lap. The heated blanket still wrapped snugly around the small alien girl. Her crystal glowed faintly now, as if resting after its strange bursts of power. Illyra's breathing had steadied, her color slowly returning. She looked between Rahman and Zoya with wide, tired eyes. It was clear she still didn't understand their language, but she understood one thing. They had saved her. Rahman leaned forward slightly, speaking gently. "You're safe now, kid." She tilted her head, studying his face like she was trying to memorize it. Then she said something in her own tongue, the same words she had spoken before, "Illyra." Zoya smiled faintly. "That's her name, Princess Illyra." Rahman nodded. "And now she's our responsibility." There was no pride in his tone, just the heavy understanding of what that meant. Saving her had not ended the danger. It had only begun a much bigger fight. The shuttle's pilot, a young IC recruit, called from the cockpit. "We've got a secure channel to HQ if you want to report in." Rahman rose and stepped forward, but not before giving Zoya a quick nod to watch over Illyra. When the channel opened, the commander's voice came through, clipped and tense. "Report." Rahman kept it simple. "We have the girl, and she's more important than we thought." He explained what they had seen in the ice facility, about the crystal and the message from her mother. The commander was silent for a moment before replying. "Understood. I'll prepare a secure location for her arrival." Rahman could hear the weight in the man's voice. This was no ordinary rescue. When Rahman returned to the cabin, Zoya was showing Illyra a small helipad, scrolling through pictures of planets and ships. The girl touched the screen, fascinated by each image. When a picture of Earth appeared, she hesitated, then pointed at it, looking at Rahman. "You want to see it?" Zoya asked softly, even though she knew Illyra couldn't understand. Illyra simply nodded, her eyes bright with curiosity. But that moment of calm didn't last. A soft alarm sounded from the shuttle's console. Rahman moved to check it. An object was following them, closing the distance fast. The pilot's voice was tight. "Small craft on approach. No ID signal." Zoya's eyes narrowed. "They found us already." Rahman grabbed his rifle, checking the charge. "Can we outrun them?" The pilot shook his head. "Not with this shuttle. They'll be in range in under 3 minutes." Rahman's mind worked quickly. If the mercenaries boarded here, in open space, they'd have no cover, no backup. He looked at Zoya. "We keep her safe at all costs." Zoya's jaw tightened. Always, the chasing craft came into view, sleek, black, built for speed. It closed in like a predator. Rahman took position near the rear hatch while Zoya secured Illyra in a crash seat. The girl clutched her crystal, her gaze locked on the approaching ship. The glow around it began to pulse faster, as if reacting to the danger. Then, just as the black ship came within weapons range, the crystal flashed. A sudden wave of energy rippled through the shuttle. The pursuing craft's lights flickered, its engines sputtered. And in seconds, it was spinning out of control, drifting away into the void. Rahman stared in shock. Did that? Zoya's eyes widened. That crystal isn't just a message, it's a weapon. The pilot quickly accelerated, putting distance between them and the disabled craft. Rahman returned to his seat, looking at Illyra with a mix of gratitude and unease. The girl's breathing slowed again, the glow from the crystal dimming as if it had given everything it could. Zoya leaned toward Rahman, her voice low. If that's what she can do when she's barely conscious, imagine when she's strong. Rahman didn't answer, but his thoughts matched hers. The shuttle broke free of the moon's gravity and into the quiet of open space. Stars stretched endlessly in all directions. For a brief moment, it felt like they had truly escaped. Illyra leaned against Zoya's shoulder. Finally closing her eyes, Rahman looked at her and then out the viewport. He knew the mercenaries, the rival faction, maybe even entire governments would come for her. And when they did, Icy would have to be ready as the shuttle angled toward safe territory. Rahman allowed himself a small smile. She was alive. They had done what they came to do, but in the quiet of his mind, one thought stayed. They hadn't just rescued a girl from the ice. They had rescued a spark that could ignite an entire war. For now, she was safe, but for now was all they had.